All right, hi guys. Today's installment of the Home Ec Teacher is biscuits. Everybody loves biscuits. Our very first ingredient, white flour. We need 2 cups of it. I've already put 1 cup into the bowl. So, for those of you novice bakers, I've put a pile of flour into my measuring cup. Now I'm going to scrape off the top by using the flat part of my knife. Scrape it into the container where it already lives and then put it into your bowl. Now that's only a half cup. We need a half cup more. So what am I going to do, ladies and gentlemen? That's right. Now, I'm going to set that aside for a moment and put my flour away because it's really important to take a moment to prepare the milk. Right now I have 1 cup of milk in here. We need 2/3 of a cup of milk. So I'm going to take out 1/3 of a cup and put it away for future use. Next step, lemon juice. We need to add a tablespoon of lemon juice to our cup. The reason we're doing that is so that we can sour up the milk. I've stirred it. I'll let it sit for a few. When it sours up, it helps the leavening to make the biscuits rise. So let's continue to put all of our dry ingredients in. Next is 2 tablespoons of sugar. The sugar is going to feed your leavening. I'm going to scrape the top of that too. Sprinkle it all over the flour. I said 2 teaspoons, right? All over the top of the flour. Next, we need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, I've already measured that out. 1/4 of a measure. Straight into the flour. After that, we are going to add a tablespoon of baking powder. Just plain old baking powder. Now baking powder always works better when it has its buddy baking soda to work with it. I have 1/4 teaspoon baking soda that I've already measured out. There we go. Those are our dry ingredients. I take my whisk and slowly run it around the bowl so that it becomes one uniform color and mixes together. Now, your next step is 1/2 cup of shortening. I've put some of our shortening in already just to get a quick heads up on it, but I'm going to fill it up all the way. As I fill it up, I push it so that it squeezes into all the corners. That's pretty important because you don't want the wrong amount, whether it's too much or too little. So, I've pushed it all down. It's very full. Do I need to scrape the top of it off the way I did the flour? Yes. Do you see any pockets? Yep, I do. So we'll fill the pocket up and then we'll scrape again. No more pockets. Next, take your flour. You can scrape it with your knife into it, or if you're lucky like I am and you have a rubber bottom, just pop it in. Comes out nice and clean. You can take 2 knives or you can take a fork. If If you're going to use the knives, then take the rounded part of each of them and point it down. You're going to cut the flour and the shortening together. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be neat and tidy. What it does have to do is turn into small pea-sized pieces of flour and shortening, because that's your most important thing. You don't want your shortening to be in clumps, and you don't want it to miss some of the places in your flour. So mix up the whole thing. Now, can I take my whisk and do this? Yeah, you can, but then this is what happens to your whisk. You're mashing, right? Okay, it gets stuck. If it gets stuck, can I scrape it out? Yeah, you can. I turn the bowl as I'm mixing, as I'm crushing the pieces of shortening into the flour. Now, I don't see any ginormous pieces of shortening any longer, and it looks like I've done a pretty good job. So, the next thing I'm going to do is scrape it out of there, put it aside, ready for the milk. I have my wooden spoon, and I have my milk. Now, here's the interesting part. Add the milk, stir quickly, but don't overmix. Then pour it out, your batter. Pour your batter out onto a floured surface. Now, I've scrubbed this counter before we started. Ready? Okay, there are little chunks of milk in there telling me that it has gotten sour. Turn the bowl, mix. Turn the bowl, mix. Taking the outside flour bits, mixing them into the middle. Now, we live at a higher elevation. If you don't overmix, you should be okay. Part of getting biscuits that turn out like hockey pucks is overmixing. See, I've got all the flour mixed in, and now I'm just going to stop. I have this muffin top pan, and the best part about that is it keeps your biscuits all in one place and doesn't let them run away. Now, if you're using your vegetable spray or Pam, that's how you would do that. Otherwise, you can take butter or margarine or shortening with your clean hands. Put it on your fingers and rub it around the sides and the bottom. You don't want to put too much on, but you don't want to miss any spots either. Now, is this going to change the flavor of the biscuits? Mostly no. It'll make the bottom of them crisp up and taste a little bit more like butter. If you want to add any kind of flavorings like cheese or sage or rosemary or even oregano, do that while you have the flour in front of you before you add your wet ingredients. Okay? I forgot my spoon. So you don't have to roll it out. You can pick it up by tablespoons full and put it in your baker like so. If you want to roll it out, you can. I'll show you how to do that. So I have several waiting to bake. Okay, they're all about the same size. I'm not going to press them. I'm going to spread them a little bit with my fingers. I'm not pressing. Okay? Put this aside. Sprinkle your counter or your cutting board with some flour. Take your biscuit mix. In this case, it's dough. Press. Should I do all of it? Oven says it's ready. Okay, now I've pressed. I'm going to flip over once onto some flour. If I overmix it, guess what? They're going to turn out to be hockey pucks. I have two choices. I can cut it with something round so that I have round biscuits. Just put it into my baking pan like so. Or I can take my knife and I can cut them into squares. Notice that I'm not touching them and I'm not reshaping them. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in my pan just like that. Guess what? They are going to rise in the oven and they are going to taste wonderful. Now I have one left over. I can add it to 5 of my biscuits in the pan by just cutting it into 5 pieces and adding it to those biscuits. Just slide it in there. Press it in a little bit, not much, because you don't want to overwork what you have going on here. Do you have any questions? If you do, send me an email. I'm going to bake this at 450 degrees for 10 minutes. 10 minutes.